On this edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher.
Monday morning was headlines. Boston Tea Party found against Strange.
I was looking at the captains that you played for. Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Raymond Floyd, Lanny Watkins.
You always want to play well for your captain, but even more so with Jack and Lee and Raymond and Lanny. My gosh, sought out Tiger on that Tuesday. I said, "Hey, would you sit down with us?" He said, "Sure." The last guy to win was Ben Hogan, and I didn't know that until the morning paper.
The greatest sports moments happen in seconds, but the stories behind them are timeless. Dive into the mind of the icons who live those moments. No filters, just authentic conversations about the moments that define careers. I'm Justin Kutcher, and this is the Just in Time podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Just in Time podcast with Justin Kutcher, joined now by another very, very special guest. This guy won back-to-back U.S. Opens, 17 times on the PGA Tour. He's a World Golf Hall of Famer, and shockingly, he's my friend, Curtis Strange. Curtis, thank you so much for joining me here. It's awesome to have you.
Thanks, Justin. Good to be here.
You know, you've done so much in your golf career, obviously, as a Hall of Famer. That speaks for itself. I want to talk to you about the Ryder Cup. I want to talk to you about playing in 5 of them, being a captain in 1 of them, the back-to-back U.S. Open wins. But before we do that, let's go back to kind of where you put your name on the map. And that was at Wake Forest, and choosing to go to Wake Forest, why you went there, and how it kind of set the table for your career.
Wow. I remember like it was yesterday, Justin. Back in the day, I don't think, we didn't travel much as juniors. There was no AJGA. There was, you played in the state amateur and the state junior and maybe the state open and your club championships, and that's about it. You didn't know how well you really could play. But when Wake Forest offered me a scholarship, Lanny Watkins actually offered me during the state amateur. And I said yes immediately. One is that we needed the scholarship money to go to Wake. But, there was only 6 or 7 schools in the country that if you thought you could play a little bit is where you would go play. And, they were Florida and maybe Georgia, Texas, Southern Cal, Arizona. And I didn't want to go way out there. So Wake was 5 hours down the road. So I said, sure, I'll go. I don't know any better. And it turned out to be the best decision I ever made.
Why was it the best decision you ever made?
Because as it turned out, I was playing against 3 of the best players in the country every single day. And Jay Haas, who's still playing the Champions Tour at 71, he was from St. Louis. He won the NCAA our second year there. Bob Byman, who came in with me, was the national junior champion, number 1 in the country. And David Thor was the best player in the state of North Carolina. And it was a pretty good foursome we had for 3 years. I was just glad to be a part of it. And we learned so much from each other. That was before filming. That was before teaching instructors every day, looking over your shoulder. We did it ourselves. And, we thought we knew everything. We didn't, but we got along. We became a team, which was Coach's big priority number 1, being a team and not an individual. And it was just playing against good players every single day makes you better.
There's a competitive spirit to that. Right. And you're obviously being very humble right now. We'll talk about what you accomplished as an individual in college. But what was it that you learned from your teammates, and how did you help them?
Wow. I don't know if we have enough time today. We learned how to compete. And, you got to this level looking back on it because you did compete and because you were better than you thought you were. And, you watched other players, how they did it, how they hit little chip shots, how they hit little low cut fades, high hooks, things like that. And then you talked about it. You were teammates. So you continue to talk nonstop about golf. That's what we did 24/7. I'm sorry to say that school was not number 1. Golf was.
It was the same thing for me. Don't worry.
But it was, I don't know. And I think we were good immediately. Okay. We won our first tournament my freshman year by beating Georgia. We beat Florida later in the year, who was number 1 in the country. We ended up going and winning the NCAA my freshman year. But all along, when you start winning tournaments as a team, you really start believing each other. You go to the mat with these guys, and you start believing in yourself. And Coach was a big part of that. And it was winning breeds winning. It breeds confidence. And with that, we became very good because we believed in ourselves.
1974, you guys go on to win the NCAA championships. If I'm not mistaken, I would say the folklore of Curtis Strange's competitive fire started there in the championships. Because on the 72nd hole, what happened? What did you do on that par 5?
Well, it's a great memory. It's one of my top. Fortunately, we have a few memories, and good and bad. And this one was good. We were head to head against Florida. They were the best team in the country. Gary Koch, Phil Hancock, Andy Bean, great players. Gary Koch and I were playing the last hole together in the last group. We were one up as a team. Now think about almost completely 4 days. Four out of the 5 scores back in the day was total for the 70-hole tournament, so it was even tougher. You couldn't throw out a score each day. We were one up. And my goal of that hole, and I knew this, and my goal of that hole was to tie Gary Koch on the par 5. He had a good drive. I had a really good drive. He had a 4-wood to the back right of the green, so I had to make birdie, and I hit a 1-iron to about 8 feet behind the hole. And if he didn't chip in, we were going to win. And at the same time, I was tied with Gary Koch individually. Okay. And I wasn't thinking about that. I knew that too. Coach didn't want us to know individual scores, but I knew it. And so Gary chipped to a foot. He's going to make 4, and I happened to make it to win by 1. But more importantly, we won by 2 in the team, and it was the first Wake NCAA golf championship with all the great teams they'd had. It was Coach's first championship. We were happy for him. We were happy for the school, and we celebrated that night. Yeah.
What was that feeling like making that putt?
Well, it was exciting. It was, the guys running on the green, hugging, jumping up and down, doing everything that you do. It was a feeling like anything else. I'd never gone through that, and I describe it by, an hour or so later, I called my mom, and I knew something was different because she cried, and she'd never cried before. And so I said, wow, I don't know what this means. And shortly after, All-American came out, Player of the Year came out, all these things that you don't ever think about because it's too big and too far removed to think about. And you don't think about things like that. But it became a good year for all of us.
So you called your mom. How about your dad? How about your twin brother?
Well, my dad had passed a few years before when I was 14. And so, that I think that's the one thing I always think about. And I really do, is that he couldn't share the joy. He was a golf professional. I grew up on the golf course with him in the summers all day long. So he would have been very proud of everything. But my brother was at East Tennessee State playing golf. I don't remember. I don't think they were out there that year, but he was, he was competitor. Hell, he was more competitive than I was. But,
wow.
I mean, he had plenty of talent. He was a football and baseball player all growing up and eventually went back to golf. But, he was trying to make a name for himself at school, became an All-American at ETSU. And then when he went back into business after trying the pro tour for a couple of years, we became very, very close, more so than we were. And we talked every Sunday night or Monday morning my entire life playing golf. And we still do. He still worries me about his golf swing at 70 years old. So, but it's been a great time for me to share with him everything that we have done together.
So Curtis, I hear you talk about that win, and that you knew you and Gary Koch were right there.
Uh-huh.
I can't help but think about what that does for you going forward into your career, being on the Ryder Cup 5 times. Did the Ryder Cup feel somewhat like that NCAA championship team, that camaraderie? Did that kind of fuel the fire for you for those?
Well, it's all part of the maturation of an athlete or businessman or anybody that baby steps to improve. You're not gonna make giant steps and be able to sustain that. This was a giant step, and this was hard for me the next year to come back and get back in the routine again. And much like that summer, well, I did play well that summer. Now we had to start again the next year, and we really wanted to prove that this was no fluke, and we were all back together. But it is baby steps to build this foundation mentally and physically to play professional golf. And you make a good point. I think I enjoy the Ryder Cup and some of the other teams that we were fortunate to play on because I enjoyed college golf so much, the team atmosphere. It wasn't all about yourself. It was about the team. It was about other guys doing what you could to help them doing what they could to help you. And that's what the Ryder Cup was all about. And I think that's one of the main reasons I really, really enjoyed the Ryder Cup so much, because it was not the spotlight on you.
Just thinking about what you did to play on 5 different Ryder Cup teams, there's a reason why you're a Hall of Famer. But then I was looking at the captains that you played for.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, Raymond Floyd, Lanny Watkins. What was it like playing for each of those guys? I guess let's start with Jack. I mean, you're playing for the GOAT. Like, what are you doing at that moment? And you're young.
Well, we were young. Jay and I were on the first team together, Jay Haas from Wake.
Yeah.
In 83. And it's hard when your captain intimidates the hell out of you when he's walking up and down the practice range. But, you always want to play well for your captain. But even more so with Jack and Lee and Raymond, and Lanny. My gosh, I mean, I was so lucky. And that's part of the motivation. But being in Palm Beach, in his backyard, we had a good team. We barely won, but we won. It was just grand. It was terrific. My first Ryder Cup match was with Raymond Floyd in the alternate shot, and I'm going, really? Put me in with the toughest competitor of all time in alternate shot, the toughest game of all time, and we birdied the first hole. We were off, so we waxed them, but. I just remember those days so vividly because it meant so much to all of us, and especially me. And again, Raymond was the same. Each Ryder Cup takes on the personality of their captains, and I think that's a pretty good personality to chase and challenge as Jack, and Lee and Raymond and Lanny. They're all as tough of competitors as you ever want to play against.
Speak to me what it was like, though, that first time you're in the meeting room and it's Captain Jack Nicklaus speaking to you. How do you kind of settle things down and be like, okay, yeah, that's my captain. He's Cap.
Well, let's just say everybody listened. Okay. There was no chit chat in the back right corner of the room. Okay. Everybody listened, which is, I must say, the Ryder Cups are so unique that everybody does listen. And when I was captain, I think one of the takeaways that really amazed me is that when I got up and speak to them, and I didn't speak a lot because these guys are grown adults, 12 of the best players in the world. They don't want to hear my BS to them about how big this was. They already know that, but they listened, and they wanted direction, and they wanted information. They wanted a timetable, which I thought was pretty cool because, you might think someone might not pay attention. They might think they're bigger than this or whatever it might be. They weren't. They were all in every time, and I appreciated that.
It's really cool to hear you say that because with these guys, I think back, you're the captain in 2002, and it was supposed to be played in 2001.
Yeah.
9/11 happened, so it gets pushed back. But you get at that point, it's Tiger, it's Phil, it's those guys. And it almost seems like being on the Ryder Cup humbles you in a sense. Like you said, these guys are looking for direction. They want the time frame. They want this and that. They want to know, what am I supposed to do for you? Not what am I supposed to do for me?
Perfectly
Cool.
said. It humbles you because, much like college golf, it isn't about you. The spotlight is not on you. It's on team. How do you bring 12 great players, individual players together as a team? Pretty easy. You put them in the Ryder Cup because they do that. It's what you do. We all played college golf. We all played high school golf, and they all enjoyed that. And I think it defined itself even greater after 9/11. I was in Oklahoma City doing an outing, going to fly to St. Louis where the golf tournament was that week when it hit on Tuesday morning.
Yep.
And so I ended up driving, and then halfway there, we canceled the tournament. And so now we were supposed to leave in 11 days.
Right.
I was on the phone the entire way. I ended up driving all the way back to Williamsburg, Virginia, the entire 2 days with the commissioner, with the PGA of America, with every member of the team. It was chaotic. It was calming because what do we do? And everybody had level heads. Everybody thought through this, the powers to be, not the players. And they immediately took me out of the equation, which I appreciated. We decided over the course of the 2 days that delaying was the proper thing. You got to remember, nobody in this country or in the world knew what the hell was going on.
Right.
And we didn't know what to do, but we did know what we wanted to do was get home to the families. And I couldn't get a hold of half the players because he was still in the air, stuck somewhere on the ground somewhere in America. And so I drove home. We delayed the Ryder Cup a year. Thank goodness. Some pundits said that we should play to bring America together. No, I think America had bigger issues than golf tournaments, okay, or Ryder Cups. And so, which was a great thing. But, the 2002 team will always be the 2001 team for me because of some terrorist organization delayed it. Doesn't mean it wasn't the 01 team. I never changed the first thing, the golf bag, the uniforms, everything still had 2001 on them. They just sat over in the corner for another year, and we got our mess together and played the next year.
So before we move on, with 2001 and what happened there, being the captain of the American team takes on a whole new dynamic.
Yes.
So when you speak to the team for the first time together, is 9/11 brought up?
Yes and no. The whole Sarah and I, it took on a different meaning. Yes. We rearranged the team rooms, the hotel rooms, the hallways. It became much more patriotic. I try not to get emotional thinking about it. It became about USA, even more so than it normally did, because of the why we were there a year late. We didn't want to forget, and we never want to forget. I never really mentioned that to them, but the whole atmosphere was like that. And even with Sam Torrance, their captain of their team, everybody understood. And everybody had that in the back of their mind why we were here a year late. And so it became more somber. I think it was the fans and the players. We were just coming off 1999 at the Country Club at Brookline, which was a chaotic mess on Sunday afternoon. Too over the top on everything, which is what the Ryder Cup is, but it calmed down because of 9/11 and what happened a year before.
Yeah, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It's so crazy to
where
think
were you?
now that I was in college,
Yeah.
and I was at Boston University.
Yeah.
I was supposed to, my alarm was going off in about 6 minutes, and I got a phone call from my sister, my older sister, and she said, "Hey, turn on the TV." I'm like, "Why? What happened?" And she's like, "A plane flew into the World Trade Center." And right away, I thought I knew what it was. And she said to me, she goes, "Do you know where Eric is?" And that's my older brother, our older brother. And she said, "Dad and I are in lockdown right now at the hospital. I was only able to get this phone line out to call you. Can you find out where he is?" But that same day, where I was in Boston, we could see from our window planes flying.
Yeah.
And it would be the Prudential Center. So for a second, the plane would disappear behind the Prudential Center. And every time that happened, that day, the flights were all obviously grounded.
Right.
But from the next week, when they would be flying, you'd hold your breath.
Yeah.
And my 3 roommates were all from New York. One of the guys' moms worked right around the World Trade Center. So I just remember, for sports, I have a credential still. I was supposed to work that weekend, a Giants-Packers game in New York as a stats person. That game, sports were paused. That game ended up being played after the final week of that season. And it was that game where Michael Strahan got the sack against Brett Favre to break the single season record.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But on my ticket, on my press credential, it still says it was supposed to be the 11th, so like the 16th or whatever of 2001. So yeah, it's crazy, but sports, it did help heal in a way the country. I got to work the World Series that year in the playoffs with Fox, and it was some of the most emotional times that I can remember. I mean, you talk about trying not to tear up at the World Series when President Bush threw out the first pitch.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Curtis, that was, I mean, tears, goosebumps, you name it.
And then laughter when you hear the story of the president being down in the bowels warming up, and Jeter comes up to him. Don't. They'll boo you.
Then, well, I'll add one more. I don't know if you ever heard this, but I will never forget this. Billy Crystal was on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and he said in that game they were in George Steinbrenner's suite, and it was Billy Crystal, Regis Philbin, Donald Trump, and the president, George W. Bush. And all of a sudden, these 2 guys come in and they go, "Mr. President, it's time to go." And he stands up, and these 2 guys take these drills and they unscrew a wall. They had put a wall into the building, into the suite, a bulletproof wall. And they pick up the wall and they walk out. And Billy Crystal says, Regis Philbin goes, "Hey, what about me?"
I got a story like that with Trump and another celebrity, and it wasn't "what about me?" Hey, you're screwed. Let me tell you. Billy Crystal was screwed, is what he was.
It's wild.
We digress, but it's a part of our life that will never go away, and it's
100%.
Nothing wrong with talking about it again and again and again, just to remind everybody what the hell we went through.
Yeah, I actually just watched this past week on Netflix the story about Osama bin Laden and trying to catch him.
Yeah.
It's a 3-part series, and again, it takes you right back to there. And I'll make this segue, and it might be a little bit of a stretch, but there's something about sports where when somebody says something, you're able to put yourself right back in that position, and it feels like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the country club at Brookline. 1988 U.S. Open is at the country club at Brookline. You and Nick Faldo are basically going head-to-head in the final round. If I'm not mistaken, on Sunday, you had a 3-putt bogey on the 17th hole.
Yeah, I hit a nice shot into 17, and it got away from me, and I was a little bit I was a little bit in shock that I did that, and I missed the next putt. And here we go to the last hole, and we're all tied again. And we both made par. I struggled to make par, but made par. And here we go to the playoff. And, Nick and I, and it was it's a good story now. It wasn't, it was high anxiety in the time, but that's what you train, and that's what you prepare to go through those times your entire life, starting back with junior golf and going through Ryder Cups and Wake Forest golf, and it all prepares you for times like this.
I was wondering a couple things because you said, you struggled to make par on the 72nd hole. You were in the bunker and you got up and down for par.
Yeah.
Which obviously is not easy. But now, back then, it was an 18-hole playoff on Monday. So the U.S. Open is this grind. It's a test physically and mentally. How about having to play 18 the next day and feeling like it might be match play?
Well, I think that's one of the first things I thought about. Is don't take this as match play today. Just go play your game. And that's hard. I mean, you got one guy to play. You're playing right with him all day long. You're looking at every shot he hits. So that's tough to do. But you still have to put a score on the board. It was not a time to get tired. It was not the time to have any excuses at all. Let's just get up in the morning, put your boots on, and let's get after it. One day, let's get after it. Everything today is going to be so magnified. I knew that. A small mistake could cost you the U.S. Open and everything else you could think about. But, I went through that for a couple of minutes that morning and get on with it. Okay, now it's time to get on and, get to the golf course and warm up and prepare and just Bill Rogers, one of my dear friends I still talk to every week, was a 1981 Player of the Year. Doral was a tough tee shot for me and everybody else because it was so much water and trees and everything. I looked at Bill one day, I said, Bill, what do you think about on the last hole? It's such a tough tee shot. He said, Curtis, just once in a while, you just got to be a man. And that always stuck with me, that there's no easy way through some of these times that we face on the golf course. There's no easy way out. There's no tricks. There's no anything you can do other than stand up, put your boots on, and get it done. And I'll never forget that. And that's what the playoff was like on that Monday.
So was that actually playing in your mind at all during that round, what he said to you?
Oh, I think it plays in my mind every day I play, seriously, in competitive golf, because there's always a time in every round that's pretty difficult. There's these little battles in your head every day when you play on tour or top rank amateur golf, that you have to win these little battles to do well. And it could be physical, it could be mental blocks, it could be the golf course, the shot, it could be anything, but you've got to get it done. And you've got to get it done and feel like you're the only guy out there that can do this. You've got to be somewhat of an arrogant guy to believe in yourself like that. And when you do, if you are successful, then you can pop your chest out just a little bit and say, I was the only guy, and that increases your confidence. I mean, it's just a snowball effect, and it can go the other way as well. But I just believed in, and there's always a way. There was always a way. There was always a shot there, and it didn't matter the conditions. Now you fail so much more in this game than you ever succeed. But it's like the one iron back of the NCAA. Things like that, it's baby steps, as I said a minute ago. There's times like that you look back on and you build upon. Now you fail and come back and fail and come back. But the shots under pressure, and that's the only thing that matters to me, can you hit the shot Sunday afternoon? That's what really matters. It's easy on Thursday and Friday at times, but you prepare, you hit those shots, you succeed once in a while, and when you get to a position like Monday at the U.S. Open or any time on the last hole, you say, I've done this. I can do this. I can do this. And at least you go into the shot, and on your downswing, you think you can do it until the ball goes somewhere else. God, where did that come from? But, most of the time it does pretty well because you're hitting on all cylinders. You're in that position because you're playing well. And you just kind of do it. There's no, like I said, there's no tricks.
I've always wondered, athletes at the top of their game, the ones who everyone calls clutch.
Yeah.
For you to hit that 1 iron, I think you were a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then for you to get up and down on the 72nd hole to force that playoff, your heart has to be racing. How do you calm that so that you can actually execute the shot or execute the play?
You don't calm it. You embracing it is a kind of overused term. That's a crock too, but you train for that. That's where those times, whenever, the more you get in that position, the more you get used to it, how your body reacts, and then how you can react to your body full of piss and vinegar. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I ran every day on tour. I was a runner.
Really?
And I always felt like my heart racing every afternoon for 30 minutes. I was used to it. And that's the little thing I always used. If I'm coming down the stretch and my heart is racing, it's used to it. I'm good. I'm good. And that's one of the reasons I ran, always to stay in shape, to get rid of all the crap that goes through your mind every day, to release it, keep my legs in shape. We were all athletes growing up. I was a basketball player and a track guy. I I was used to that. I didn't just play golf. I was used to, doing those things. So it was a time to show off in a roundabout way. Excuse me. It was a time to take advantage of all that hard work over the years, all that practice and dreaming about being in this position. It was no time to really back off and kind of be apprehensive about it. It was a time to go get after it. And so the heart racing and the jumping around, I mean, you can jump through over a 10-story building at times. And you do, when the putt goes in or the shot goes on, the adrenaline rush is unbelievable. But then you have to calm back down. They're great memories, and that's when it's the most fun, when you get in a position like that.
I didn't think about this. I never thought about this until we were talking just today. Going up against Nick Faldo at the U.S. Open, Monday, 18-hole playoff. Did you ever feel, here you are playing for your country's national open,
Mm-hmm.
did it ever kind of feel like a Ryder Cup style thing where, you're trying to win the U.S. Open versus a European trying to win the U.S. Open?
It was not a Ryder Cup feel. It was the Boston Tea Party feel. Oh. And I say that because the Boston paper Monday morning was headlines: Boston Tea Party, Faldo against Strange. And it was, I never thought about it like that, but it was the current Open champion, as Nick was. He was a 1, 2, or 3 player in the world. I don't know if we even had rankings back in the day. I knew I was going to be up against a world-class player that I wasn't going to give me much. I had to be at my best, but I always hopefully think that he was thinking the same thing too, that he had his hands full. And I don't mean that as a cocky, arrogant statement, but that's what I told myself. There's no reason I can't beat this guy. I play okay too, but the papers were actually kind of comical. Boston, the country club, Open champion, U.S. Open. It was me versus them. And it was that didn't add anything to it, but it was kind of a unique take on the whole day of golf.
Do you happen to have any of those papers framed in your house?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I would too if I were you.
Oh yeah, they're right over here. Some guy made me this 2x4 big scrapbook. It's huge, and it's sitting right over here, and with all the different papers from around. And I haven't looked at it in 25 years, but I don't have to, because I remember what it was all like. I was one of the 2 principals in this whole day, so I remember. I'm going to tell you a quick story. So my twin brother, identical twin, still to this day look alike. He got talked into coming to the playoff. Never done that before in his life. Didn't want to upset things. He played professional golf a couple of years. He gets it. My uncle, Jordan Ball, Alan, and two friends fly up that morning. They get a mile from the country club and they realize they have no credentials, but they have Alan. So they immediately put him behind the rental car in the driver's seat. Now, they had golf shirts on and shorts, and they drive up to the gate, and it's about 11 o'clock. We don't play it at 2 o'clock. So Alan drives, hey, how you doing? Hey, Curtis, how you doing? Hey, good luck today. Kick his ass is exactly what he said. And so here they go through the gate. So now they still don't have credentials. So they get in the USGA office. It's early enough. They get, long story short, and then they start drinking beer out there by the putting green. And it's 11:30, 12. We don't go to 2. And everybody, you can imagine, everybody kind of filtering around, getting ready for the playoff. Boston showed up that day, by the way, 20,000, 25,000. And they're watching Curtis/Allen drink beer, preparing for the playoff. And they don't know it's not me. And so it was to hear him tell the story, it takes 30 minutes. But when I finally see him, when I go to the putting green, it's got 15 minutes to go. He's got about 4 or 5 of these cups stacked up with each other. And it was a great day for everybody, and especially Alan, because he got to walk inside the ropes the last 9 holes with Jerry Pate, who was the on-course reporter for ABC at the time, and he'll never forget it. He'll never forget it. It was a great day for all. We finished the day. He was right there by the 18th green. I walked by. It was so loud I couldn't hear anything. And they left. And somebody said, why did you leave? And he says, he didn't need me then. I would have stayed if he'd have lost. So we talked that night. He called me about 2 a.m. And we talked for about an hour, and the rest was history. So it was a great day for everybody.
That is one of the greatest stories I think I've ever heard.
Well, if you get a couple of cocktails in me, it'll take 30 minutes to tell, and it gets a whole lot. But it was.
Consider that done, okay? The next podcast we do will just be drinking.
I got to tell you, when I look back on that day and that afternoon and the excitement to Sarah and I on the last green, and Rosberg, who was always a dear, dear friend, interviewing me on the last green, Judy Rankin, who's almost like a sister to me, was calling golf that day on the golf course. Dave Marr, who became a dear friend, was working ABC. I have such great memories that I'll never, ever forget. But Alan being there and being able to enjoy my best day ever was something special.
It sounds incredible. I also can't imagine what the fans were thinking. Like, Curtis is one of us. He's drinking before his round.
He's warming up like we do.
He's 4 deep. This is going to be great.
And you know what? He knew what was going on, too. He knew.
I love it. Okay, so now fast forward to the next year. You're now the U.S. Open champion. You go to Oak Hill. You're the reigning champion. No player has won back-to-back since 1951 in Ben Hogan. Do you feel an immense amount of pressure, or was it just like, I'm playing with house money?
No, I didn't feel an immense amount of pressure, because the papers had reminded me that I didn't, first of all, know who the last player to win back-to-back. It didn't make any difference to me because it hadn't been done in such a long time. I thought I had a chance, but I took it as another U.S. Open. You play hard. You want to give yourself a chance on the weekend, Sunday. But there was a long ways to go before then. So I didn't want to get ahead of myself. Just kind of go with the flow, gain some momentum Thursday and Friday, and hopefully on the weekend. Well, I shot 64 on Friday and took the lead. And now Saturday morning's paper was the last guy to win was Ben Hogan. And I didn't know that until the morning paper, back when we had papers, by the way. So I said, it's pretty cool. But I immediately thought, gosh, really, because Jack didn't do it, or Lee didn't do it, or Arnie didn't do it, or Watson didn't do it. I didn't. I hear him.
Yeah, that's my dog going
Yeah.
crazy.
So mine's behaving over here. But anyway, I didn't think much about it, but I did think about, gosh, those guys didn't do it. Didn't add any pressure, but it was just kind of a weird moment. And then I shot 73 on Saturday, and I was 3 behind Tom Kite, and they didn't mention Ben Hogan Sunday morning in the papers because I was not leading. And
So you came from 3 behind on Sunday.
yeah, I went out there with an attitude, and honestly, I'll never forget driving to the golf course. What I was thinking was that Oak Hill is a hard golf course, really hard golf course. We had a lot of rain, which made it easier for the week. And so I thought if I shot 1 under, maybe 2, which was a pretty good ask. Tom Kite shooting 1 or 2 over was not asking a lot of him either. Leading the Open, hadn't done it before, a dear friend, but I got to look at reality here.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, game on, we can do this. And there were other players in the mix, but Tom Kite was a world-class champion, okay? And so I get started out well. I parred. And then Tom Kite tripled the 5th hole. Game on.
Whoa.
I get emotional thinking about this. So Bill Millsaps was the editor of the Richmond Times-Dispatch sports section. Hall of Fame guy, world-renowned, dear friend. He walked with me the whole way. We went along. I was 1 behind, maybe even 1 behind. I walked down the 10th fairway, and Bill was over there and gave me a thumbs up. That meant I had the lead. And now it was really mine to win or lose. When you have the lead, that's what I always felt. And I played really, really well after that. I made 15 pars in a row and birdied 16 to go 2 up. Parred the hard 17. I bogeyed 18 when I went playing safe.
Yeah.
But it was I played the round of golf I needed to play. I got some help from Tom Kite, absolutely, and it was 2 in a row. And it was a completely different feeling after that. I'm rambling now, but Sarah had just beaten breast cancer for the first time that year, so it meant a great deal to both of us. Dave Marr, again, was calling it from ABC, and he said, it seems like it means something different for the 2 of them this year than it did last year. Well, it was because of her, being a survivor and me winning 2 in a row, and it hadn't been done in such a long time, but it was just special because the U.S. Open meant so much to me growing up, my family. See, my dad played in 6 U.S. Opens. He was a good player. So the U.S. Open was always big in my house growing up. And so that really hit home emotionally for me. But that was, 88 was emotional because of Dad and being the first. 89 was more of a sense of accomplishment. It really was. And now it didn't take long to, could we do 3 in a row? They don't wait long to cut you off the kneecaps and see if you can build yourself back up. So that's what we do on TV now. So that's part of the gig. But it was a great time in our lives.
How often do you think back to those 2 years?
I don't very often. It's just the way we are. I look back at some of the failures probably a little more than some of those times. Some people might say that's kind of a creepy way to look at your life, but I think it's always the case. There's some that got away that I think about, not often, but the Masters from '85. I think about it when I'm asked about it, doing the TV at the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
And I answer it like this, and I truly, truly believe this, is that those failures, those grand failures that you have in your career, are all part of your career, good or bad. they're all part of that foundation of building up to having something that you finally hopefully reach a peak. They're all part of it, a huge part of it. You learn more from the defeats than you do the wins every time. And so, the Masters was a part of that. A couple of U.S. Opens that got away, especially in '94. I still, especially going back to Oakmont, 94, I felt like I had the lead on the backside in '94, and I didn't win. And so going back to Oakmont, I've thought about it. Some people have asked about it. But it's not such a depressing negative thought. It's hey, at least I came back. I learned something. Did I learn something? Yes. Okay, move on.
It's funny because I was looking at '94, and that was the year that Ernie Els won at Oakmont, won in a playoff against Lauren Roberts and Colin Montgomery. You missed out on the playoff by 1.
Yeah.
But you shot 4 rounds of 70.
Yeah.
You can't be more consistent than the way you played.
Well, I'm one of 2 people to break par all 4 rounds and not win a U.S. Open. Brooks Koepka being the other one.
You guys have something else in common.
Yeah, really. But I let that one get away. I still have thoughts that I was really playing well on Sunday, and they weren't. Now, granted, it was much like '89. Ernie was not playing well, so it gave me an in, and I was 1 or 2 under, and gave me an opportunity, and I didn't take advantage of it. But Oakmont, it was tremendous. I love the course like a brother. I think it's one of the top 1 or 2 open venues there are. I would have loved to have won a third. That was asking a lot, but you put yourself in position. Why not? I just anyway, it didn't happen. But I was always proud of the U.S. Open. I was proud of what the USGA did. And I looked at Arnie one time. Arnie told me, we were talking about people, complaining about U.S. Open setup, which they will next week, Bob.
Oh, for sure.
And he said, damn it, it should be the hardest test. It should be like a marathon. You should be exhausted after the day because it is our national open. And, when Arnie spoke, you listen. And he was right.
Do you ever just stop and think? You just said Arnie, Arnold Palmer. Jack Nicklaus was your first captain. Lee Trevino, Raymond Floyd. Your career spans those greats. And then, Tiger Woods, Fred Couples, all these guys. You ever think about who you played against, what your career was like, how incredible it has been?
Well, I'm thrilled and honored to call those guys friends. Some more than others.
Right.
But you're all contemporaries because you grow up in this game and you tried to all had the same goals, to be the best you could be, and to maybe play on tour one day. And you get running in circles sometimes that you kind of pinch yourself once in a while when you start playing better and better and better. And, I say Arnie, I never called him Arnie because that was almost too relaxing. He was Arnold to me. He was Mr. Palmer forever, and he was Arnold to me, and he was the grandest there was. And I was always just so respectful and so admiring of him and the way he lived his life. And we got along, and the girls got along even better. Sarah and I had our second honeymoon night in Arnold and Winnie's house in Latrob.
What?
Yes. We got married on Friday night at 6:00. We flew late that night to D.C. We flew early the next morning to Latrob. Arnie picked us up at Latrob. We played an exhibition somewhere in Pennsylvania. And during the exhibition, come on back to the house and we'll have a beer and have dinner. And we were going to Bay Hill for the next 3 days for our honeymoon, and then overseas for 4 weeks. So welcome to my world, Sarah. We were 21-20. So we
Oh
go
my
back to
gosh.
Arnie's house. We spent our real first night honeymoon in his house. We had too many beers. We had a great dinner, and it was something we never forget. It was grand. So
Oh, wow. And is that all from the Wake Forest connection?
yeah, a lot of that. A lot of the Wake Forest connection. A lot of dad knew Arnie playing amateur golf in Ohio against each other. And they had, well, not stayed in touch because club pro versus touring pro never crossed paths. But they, the U.S. Open, they'd see each other, a couple of times in their lives. It was fun.
Oh my, this is why, honestly, my first time doing golf was in 2016 U.S. Open at Oakmont for Fox. And that was
Yeah.
the first time I got to meet you.
Really?
Yep. And I remember we had dinner one night. My analyst was Olin Brown, and it was me,
Good
you, and
man.
Olin.
Good man.
Oh gosh. And we had the same birthday, which makes him even a better person. But that night, I just remember being there, sitting down and listening to the two of you guys tell stories. And I've been so lucky in my life to be around incredible people. But it was my first time being around golfers and legends in the game and hearing you guys talk. I just remember going back to my room thinking, is this really happening? Like, this is real? Oh my God.
Well,
It
you're very kind.
was awesome.
That's part of the, and I would have played if I never got into TV when I was 42. I wouldn't have been able to experience meeting so many other people in a different world than just competitive golf. Now I'm involved in a world that's showcasing competitive golf at the highest level. And it was, I can't explain to you guys that went to school to prepare a career into either journalism or TV, how much I've appreciated everybody's help and along the way, because it was a different world. I came to the booth at 42 years old with locker room lingo, and I still don't have a large vocabulary, and which some idiots out there in the real world remind me once in a while. Fuck you guys. You can delete that. Okay. I'm sorry. My world is to bring golf closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
And how I do it is my way. And so from getting to know, I'm going to name drop here because it's not my
Please.
real world, is I've been able to work with Vin Scully and Brett Musburger and Jack Whitaker and Mike Tirico and gosh, I'm drawing a blank here.
Scott
Jim
Van Pelt.
Nance, Scott Van Pelt. I'm talking about the older guys. Peter Alice, and just guys that I was nervous going to the booth to work with, and all of them were incredibly accommodating to me. They're such nice people. Of course, I guess if you got to work with 100 different bozos analysts in a year, you got to be nice. You got to be able to get along with everybody. But I've had such a great experience doing that, and different majors and skins games and all these different things we try to put on TV and showcase our world. It's been such a learning experience for me. It's been such a joy. And, I left the game earlier because of that, but I don't regret one thing, because there was a new world that popped up, and it was called TV golf. And, I was a sponge. I try to learn so much so quickly, and you do, but now you got to get that voice out. And it's still hard for me. It's still incredibly hard for me, but we have a pretty good boss in at ESPN, and we did at Fox, and it was a joy. It's been a joy and really a pleasure to be around all of you guys over the years.
I have to ask, everyone remembers the famous interview with you and Tiger.
Yep.
When you said you'll learn.
Yep.
What was your relationship like after that? How did it evolve? And then when you were the captain, of the Ryder Cup team, and he's one of your players. Did he ever bring it up? Did you ever bring it up? What was said?
No, nobody ever brought it up. It never came up ever until social media bust on the scene. They let ABC, I got Tiger, I was pretty new. That was 96.
96, yeah.
I was 2 years into TV, the analyst for ABC, and it was Milwaukee. I was playing. ABC let me play and do the TV back in the day. That's the reason I took the job.
Nice.
And I just went to the booth when I finished. I sought out Tiger on that Tuesday. I said, "Hey, would you sit down with us?" He said, "Sure." And so I stood to my boss, Jack Graham at ABC. I said, "Look, I want to do the interview." Okay, which shocked me. Now I don't sleep for 2 friggin' nights. I'm working, I'm doing my notes, I'm writing questions. Jack said, "Do you need help?" I said, "No, I did." Tarico did help me a little bit, but I had all my questions. But as you know, when you, and I had already learned enough to listen to the answers. Don't go off 1 through 10 questions. Listen to the answers and have a conversation. So here we go. And he was shy. He was quiet. He was good. And he played his first round Thursday night. We got him in there, the hotel room, and it just happened. He said these things. First was my goal. Second sucks, and third is worse.
Yep.
And it kind of stung me a little bit. And I did it when I said you'll learn. Was part of me being a smart aleck. Part of me was serious because honestly, to this day, sitting here talking to you, I still think most of America was thinking the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But it didn't mean I wasn't being mean by any stretch. I admired this kid. I knew this kid for a couple of years before that. He came out on tour once in a while, went on the West Coast to watch golf. We all met him. And so fast forward to social media, and they still hammer me. And it's I can't tell you, I shouldn't say this because they'll hammer me more, but how hurtful it's been over the years. He and I never talked about it until years later. We were in Spain together, and we were having dinner. And I said, "I got to tell you something to you. We all learned, didn't we?" He just grinned. That's what, and it was kind of a conversation. It was part of the conversation. But nothing was ever said between Tiger and I. I was doing TV. I saw Tiger every other week because he was playing a lot. Yep. And he happened to play, it just so happened he played on ABC a lot. We had some of his tournaments. Mm-hmm. We had a great schedule back in the day. And so here we go to the Ryder Cup. He was the best. He was as good as anybody on the Ryder Cup team. He was the first to do anything that we asked him to do because he didn't sleep much. He was up early and did all the signing, did this, he did everything. It was perfect. And he listened, like I said earlier. They were all incredible. And so social media bust out, and they really, really hammer me sometimes. I got off Twitter years ago because of that. Honestly, I did. And I just it's hurtful, but I feel for the people that have to reach out and do things like that. You know what? Looking back on it, Tiger changed the game. Not the way he played, the way he presented himself and the way he went about it by thinking first was a goal, second sucks. We didn't look at it like that for 2 reasons. One, we didn't want to be arrogant. Not that that's arrogant. And 2, we weren't good enough to think that. I never stood on the first tee and said, "Hey, I'm going to win this week." I wasn't good enough to think like that. Tiger was. Jack was. Arnie was. The true superstars were. And he changed the way the good players went about their business. First is the goal, and second sucks. And
Curtis, I never told you this, but in college, I actually hosted a radio show in college.
Yeah.
And I did a piece about that. And you're right, because what he did, he changed the entire dynamic of golf in the sense that if you won twice in a year, you were going to be up for player of the year. He was winning 6, 7, 8 times a year. In a bad year, he won 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
His winning percentage was over 33%. I said at that moment, his winning percentage was better than a couple of NBA teams and a couple of NHL teams. That was unheard of. And so you weren't far off from when you said you'll learn. It just so happens that we all learned, like, holy crap, this dude is different.
We did learn. You know, I knew he'd won 3 juniors and 3 amateurs in a row, but the transition from amateur golf to professional golf, those who make derogatory comments to me have no idea the stepping stone that is. Now, granted, he was better than most amateurs that had come along in a long time, but he wasn't better than Lanny Watkins or Ben Crenshaw or Vinnie Giles or some of the great amateurs in the game. But he'd won all these, but he was incredibly gifted physically, but he was gifted mentally. His teachings were winning was the goal, second sucks. Now, those who took that on as the way to think were disappointed many, many times. See, I thought, and this is if I finished 5th a particular week and I played hard, I worked on every shot, and I just didn't make the putts that week, it was a pretty good week. It was. Because I wasn't good enough to win 7 or 8 times a year. And so that's the way it was. And you bring it up, and I actually like to try to explain it because he came on the scene. He won 3 or 4 weeks later, and the rest is history, as they say.
It really is.
And it was a joy to watch. But, honestly, later on in his career, when you reach your peak and you start coming down just a little bit, you don't win 7 or 8 times a year. You do. Some of those successful weeks are a 3rd or 4th. So it depends on how you go about looking at it. But he was great for the game. He was an incredible player. Arguably one of the 2 best ever to play the game. I'm not going to get into that argument or discussion. Right. But he was, and he still has so much to give. At the recording of this, he still has so much to offer, even though he's not playing.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You mentioned, wins. Do you recall your first win on tour?
Like it was yesterday.
Do you know who you beat?
Like it was yesterday. The first win never goes away. It was in Pensacola, 1979. I joined the tour in 77, June of 77. So I struggled. And then not only did I not win, I really struggled. I kept my card, but I was Monday qualifying like everybody else. I won in 79 in Pensacola. I beat Bill Kratzert by a shot, who still is a dear friend of ours. Dear, just the greatest guy and such a talent on the golf course reporting. But I beat him by a shot, and we didn't sleep that night. Sarah and I didn't sleep that night. It was so exciting. It was $27,000. No, actually, it was $27,000 was the winner's check, and we were rich. We were out of the hole and on our way.
Life-changing.
Yes.
Please tell me that you ribbed.
And it wasn't financial at all. It was, hey, I felt like I belonged to some degree. Not a lot, but I felt more like I belong now. And I was part of the guys. And then when you win, you get thrown in Thursday and Friday pairings with winners. And so all of a sudden I'm paired with Hale and Arnie and Jack and Lee and whoever else were the last 3 years winners. It was enormous to play with those guys, and learn from them and watch them and be around them. And it really does help your game.
Who do you think you learned the most from being paired with in those rounds?
I say I learned from them, watching them. You didn't watch a lot because you were so consumed in what you were doing. I think practice rounds you learned and talked more. Although I didn't play practice rounds with those guys. I was not in their league. But I picked people's brains once in a while. I wasn't scared to ask questions. And it wasn't about like they do, like we hear about Rory meeting with Jack before the Masters. It was nothing like that. It was just maybe about a shot. Um, you know, I asked Seve one time, we were in a bunker together at the Open Championship, and I said, tell me something. And we weren't great friends. We were competitors, okay? But how in the hell do you do that? Tell me. It was about using the bounce, using this weight. It was about this. And I kind of did it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And it kind of opened up a light bulb, went off a little bit. So things like that work. Uh, and watching Jack was something incredible. Watching Jack, he was longer, straighter, best long iron player I've ever seen in my life, other than possibly Tiger. And why is that? Because they were so strong. Strength shows its face so many different ways on a golf course. Driving it long, yes. Hitting long irons high and soft is the other way. And they were just incredible. Their ability to play the game.
Going back to that first win, please tell me that you needle Kratz on that every now and then.
I don't have to. He knows. I don't have to. He knows. And Gary Koch, who was the epitome of hole announcers for 30 some years in TV, ESPN in the day, and then many, many years in NBC, since retired a couple of years ago. But I beat him by a shot in the NCAA the first year. So Tommy Roy, the great producer at NBC, always reminds Gary about that every time we're around. So, that's the fun part about it. You build these relationships up from junior golf. I played against Lanny in junior golf and Bobby Watkins and, and of course in college golf, Stadlers and the Haas's, the Kratzerts and the Kochs and the, Scott Simpsons and just the names that are still around to this day, playing the Champions Tour at, I'm very, very lucky because it's a game that lasts forever. You always hear that, but it's true.
It is true.
And now doing golf on TV, I'm able to be around the younger generation and learn from them.
I just love being around all you guys and seeing how what I say about sports is it keeps you young, and just seeing how you guys get on each other. And, people tell me about the text chains that you guys have. And I'm like, I can only imagine how good they are, because I was just with Sluman this past week and the dude is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he's absolutely hysterical. And the more we talk, I'm like, you are just a big kid.
Oh, yeah. Well, social media has brought out the kid in us a lot, because my text string, whose partners on text string will go unnamed here, but it doesn't take long to get in the toilet quickly.
Yes.
And it's from maybe at the PGA Championship, it may be from the chaos of the tour now, or maybe LIV, or maybe some of the constituents of LIV. It's just it ranges from different ways golf entertains us, and that's the way. Hey, we stay friends by doing this too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Slew actually is the one who said to me, I've never seen someone despise making a bogey more than Curtis Strange.
So thank you, I say to that. Thank you for the compliment. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes making a bogey. I just always felt like I was giving one back to this field that I've gained on by making maybe two birdies. I make a bogey, and I said, son of a bitch, I just didn't like it. Birdies were hard enough to come by. And it was just a mistake you made. It's just the way I looked at it. I don't think I hated him any more than the next guy, possibly, other than maybe I mumbled a little bit more than some others.
Well, as
I asked the tour, I got fined more than once and less than 100 times by the commissioner. And I asked him one time, I said, 2 questions I have for you. Beeman was my first commissioner, but then Tim Fincham. I said, Commissioner Finch, I have a question. I have 2 questions for you. Can I write this off on my tax return? He kind of laughed a little bit. And I said, the second question is, can I put all of this money from saying bad words, can I put this in a fund? Can I actually start a scholarship in my name at the tour? It wasn't that much, but I get mad at him once in a while, but they were so right in keeping our image the way it was, keeping it clean. And because of that, corporate America embraced us years ago. And all because of that, we play for the money that they play for now. We have corporate America throughout the world that's embraced the tour. We're very, very successful because of our image and because of the 2 commissioners I played under kept our thumb right on top of us, which was a good thing.
Well, I see you wearing a MasterCard logo on your collar. And then I wore this on purpose, this Nike jacket, the old school Nike jacket.
Yeah.
Because you may have been, I don't know if you may have been the first guy to wear Nike on tour. Like
Peter Jacobsen and I.
Okay.
Peter
Jake being a Beaverton, Oregon guy. Yep.
Yeah, he knew the Nike guys, and we signed pretty much the same time. I was with him for 8 or 9 years. Uh, uh, it was at their very beginnings. Shoes are still being worked through. Shirts, there were no slacks at the time. Shirts and sweaters are still being worked through. There were no hard goods, just clothes. Shoes was, their shoe company, so the shoes were important, and they struggled with the shoes for a long time. But now look at them; they're everywhere. They got 1 and 2 in the world in Scottie and Rory, and they're highly visible and they're very successful throughout.
Yeah. Well, Curtis, I think you know this, that we could probably talk for 2 more hours without any problem whatsoever. Yeah. Although I respect your time too much to do that to you. So all my podcasts, I like to end with a segment called This Just In. And it's a series of questions, rapid fire. I'll say it, and then first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Toughest player to face in the Ryder Cup?
Seve.
Why?
He lived it. It was all about the Ryder Cup for him. It was about leading Europe to beat the big bad USA. He was very, very emotional about it, very patriotic. And the Ryder Cup would not be what it is today without Seve Ballesteros.
That's awesome. Most nervous tee shot you've ever had to hit?
Probably the tee shot 1988 playoff first hole. I got through it, but it was anxious. Yeah, very much so.
Favorite shot of your career?
Well, it would always be a shot late Sunday afternoon, which meant everything. The bunker shot to get me in the playoff at the country club was the most important shot I ever hit. I think that the shot I go back to, honestly, is the 1-iron in 74 in the NCAA, because it wasn't about me. It was about team and about Wake Forest.
In a weird way, when you just said that, it made me think of Michael Jordan hitting the shot in 1982 to have North Carolina win their national title. And that was the shot that kind of put him on the map. I almost feel like that was the shot that put you on the map.
Well, in a much smaller way, I think it did to the. Well, I don't know. I think they knew that I could play to start with, but it put me, myself, and I believed in myself after that, and I believed in the team after that, and we had a good run after that.
Most incredible thing you've ever witnessed on a golf course, whether it's during the playing or broadcasting?
I think Tiger Woods, we did the tournament that he won, 8 in a row. We were talking about Byron Nelson, 11 in a row. We were talking about that record. We had to go to the record books to try to put into words what he was accomplishing here. And we had to go to the history books. And it made us work harder. It made us better. We were trying to put in perspective for, as I said earlier, to bring the game closer to the viewer. And how do I do this? It was special. Then him winning, it seems to always revolve around Tiger when you ask a question like that. Him winning the U.S. Open by 15 at Pebble Beach. Greatest 72 holes of golf ever played and will ever be played. Him winning by 8 that same year at the Open Championship at St. Andrews. Things like that are just, it's hard to put into words. Sometimes I think you and I just have to sit back and watch and not say anything.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's impossible for us to do it justice.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to get you out on this one.
All right.
Your favorite memory on the golf course?
I've been so lucky. Sarah's twice a survivor. Everybody's healthy in the family. And we have some of these memories that we can fall back on and laugh about and sometimes cry about. And so much of it does revolve around the career. But it wasn't just about the golf. It was about a lot of the friendships and people we still talk to, and, accomplishing something that you set out to do when you were 9 years old. There's some shots you remember, but I think a lot of it was about sharing it with your wife and the team, and just working with such greats in the TV business. It's been a great ride. The whole thing's been a great ride. The whole bundle of memories has been a great ride.
It's a great answer. And before we go, I have to share a story for the viewers and listeners. Is that I have a bracelet that I wear on my wrist, and I've been wearing it since 2017. It was for my old coach, Daniel Meggs, who played golf at Wake Forest. He was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer at the age of like 27. And I remember going to you in 2017 at the U.S. Open at Erin Hills saying, Curtis, a friend of mine, he's my coach. He's been diagnosed with cancer. He went to Wake Forest. He played there. Would you mind just recording a quick message for him? And it was Sunday of the U.S. Open that year. And you recorded the message. And I still have it on my phone about Wake Forest guys, we stay together, and all this stuff. And I sent it to him. He was actually at the doctor's office when he got the message, and he clicked play, and the doctor goes, "Was that Curtis Strange?" And you doing that for me and doing that for him, it's something that I will never forget. He lost his battle in 2020, but he fought like hell. And everyone has described you as a fighter, the way you are on the golf course. It just meant a lot to me. And I've gotten to see the softer side of you. And a lot of us in TV have gotten to see the softer side of you. And
God, I'm sorry. When you think about, we talk about sports and people hitting shots or, jumpers at the end, and the true courage, nothing about courage. The true courage is some of our veterans, of course, but people like your coach, desperately fought and with everything they had. And we see it every day, unfortunately. I think the one thing we can do for all of those people is raise a glass to them once in a while and laugh with them tell old stories, and just remember them. Just always remember.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I didn't know about Sarah being a 2-time survivor.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you guys have been together all these years. Sounds like she's quite the fighter too. She
Well,
might be the bigger fighter than you.
You know, she gets on my nerves once in a while, and I get on her nerves a lot. But we're working on 50 years. So she has a lot of patience. God, that's all I'm going to say. So anyway, this has been fun.
This has been so much fun. Curtis, thank you so much for doing this. I've learned a lot. There are some great stories in there. I know everybody watching and listening, they will love it. Honestly, man, thank you. Can't wait to get out there with you again and see you soon.